Hello, everyone. Yeah. Hello.
Already?
Hello. Yes. Um, Welcome to everyone to this talk, and I'm very happy to see you here, Tricia, Manuel, Désiré. My name is Daniele Maruca. I'm since over 10 years working with Désiré Feuerle in Berlin. And actually, Désiré, you together with Demet and Alfan had this idea of this talk to combine different worlds that are not so different and so far away from each other within the context of this incredible festival in this amazing city. And since the title, or the very big question that we have all been asked, what is really real is actually the golden thread through all the activities. Actually, one of like my personal answer to moderate this talk is that emotions are real, and that they are real for us. They are the one thing that make all human beings sort of live in this world in similar ways, because we actually perceive also through emotions. And to quote an incredible woman who just left us, Jane Goodall, actually emotions are also our connection to the animals and to nature. And I think they are incredibly important in the context of the arts. And being within a context that has been founded on the basis of the vision of Désiré around something that one cannot really compare to what the standards of museums linked to design, the design of exhibitions would offer. I think it's an incredible opportunity to have Tricia and Manuel to speak about how in these two incredible institutions that you are directing, some of the aspects that are solved in a different way in the Feuerle collection, and then we will talk about it, are actually handled. So cinema, film is one of the most powerful languages in nowadays society, creating emotion and also analyzing or presenting emotion. So the relationship between filmmakers and film directors, actors, and the public is so holy, but also so invisible and so strong that I think it's great that you will help us to talk about this, Tricia. Thank you so much. And I mean, as an art historian, and I must say, as a museum director, I admire your work immensely, Manuel, and I think what you achieved in the over 10 years, I think now almost 10 years of your presence there as a director of one of the, I would say, one of the most significant new projects, museographically and museologically, of the whole world. The Louvre Abu Dhabi will be one of the references, big references also for the students in the future for many, many years to come. So this idea was to understand how, on the one hand, Tricia is directing the International Berlin Film Festival. You are there since April 2024. You've been in London before. You will tell us something about it, and how emotions play a role in your project, but also how Manuel, and in this incredible project in Abu Dhabi that is a universal museum, but not only that, and is connecting so many worlds with each other, is dealing with the challenges of every day for an international museum like yours, but also with emotions that are something. There are those things that actually remain in everybody when they visit a museum, and then they go to their homes, or their work, their lives, and everything that happens in their daily life. And Désiré, you have created a total work of art. Calling it museum is actually almost difficult, because it's so much more the result of your creativity and your vision for so many decades, because you actually put everything together in this space in Berlin that you have been studying and thinking and collecting for decades, but it's not what the classic museum would be. It's more a work of art where light became your language. So I think we can now start with a set of very simple questions, actually, but I would like to start, and then I think let's see where all this takes us. I think we keep it very flexible tonight. Thank you for giving us this chance. Tricia, you are the director of the Berlinale, as I said, since April 2024. You were in London before. I think in your work you are bringing, and this I just saw it from the very first time that I had the chance to meet you, together with Désiré. You bring an incredibly sharp intellectual analysis of what you do, and consciousness, but also warmth that is incredibly important. You have an almost holistic approach to the city as well. Can you tell us something about how you see the Berlinale now in Berlin? Thank you.
Absolutely, and maybe a little context setting as well too. I mean, you all might be familiar with the Berlin Film Festival, but we celebrated our 76th anniversary last year. So it's one of the older film festivals in the world. Really august history. The legacy of the festival is immense, with filmmakers who've won our main award, ranging from Mohamed Rasselov to Paul Thomas Anderson to Lou's godmother, the beautiful Agnes Varda. And really, it's such an interesting space. We are both an industry festival. We run a huge marketplace of 20,000 international professionals who come together in February every year from over 160 countries. But we're also really pretty uniquely bringing together an industry festival with a very, very public audience festival. So last year there were nearly 350,000 admissions.
Wow, amazing.
Which is huge. I mean, and the festival itself has been very shaped by a number of things. I mean, one of them is that the festival was created as a post-war sort of reconstruction project that was about bringing together cultures to communicate through art and to understand each other through art. But also, and that very much is in the DNA of the festival that we run now, but also what I love about the festival and what I've really tried to understand coming to the festival is how much of the city is in the DNA and the personality of the Berlinale. So it's a city that's full of, even in the last 100 years, some terrible histories, and also some beautiful histories. You know, some of the artists who've emerged. We operate our market out of the Martin Gropius Bau and Bauhaus, the cinema of the Weimar Republic. Also, the fine art of the Weimar Republic is very much, I think, a part of the city. But we are at an interesting crossroads as well, too. I mean, in a way, our market side of the festival and our public side of the festival have become like two sides of the brain that aren't communicating as much as they should. And it really is important. And I think this mirrors what's happening in the cinema industry more generally. I mean, cinema has always been a strange space to make art, because on the one hand it's assumed to be, and is at the far extreme, a sort of commercial entertainment product, and at the other end it is a work of pure fine art, and we operate in that space between. So I think one of the things that I really want to do is sort of own bring those two sides of the brain back together more, be part of the city, reconnect with the city. And that's where we are right now, I think.
I love that. I mean, you really working on this, and we heard it from you from the very first moment when you arrived and you met Désiré, and I was there. It was super nice for me. And now the first question for you, Manuel. Actually, there are so many things one could say about the Louvre Abu Dhabi. I think it's a project everybody's curious about it. The ones who have not been there, like myself, and the ones who have been there were incredibly fascinated by it. Can you tell us something about it, about you and how you were landing this incredible project there?
So 8 years. We're celebrating soon our 10th anniversary. We opened in 2017. We're not far. You can easily jump on a plane after the festival and join us in Abu Dhabi. I think we have proposed a reinvention of the Universal Museum as one new chapter in the long book of what universal or encyclopedic museums can be. You have in mind, we have many people living in New York who came, but the Met, the Louvre, of course, the British Museum, Hermitage, these museums which are offering encyclopedic classification of the history of art. In Abu Dhabi, when Louvre, which is the museum of the museum, meets the capital city of the UAE, we had the opportunity to insist on something which is important in the DNA of the Arab world, the narrativity, the storytelling in the poetic way, not in the two-used sense. And we insisted on the flow, on the continuity of the creativity in humanity. So basically, which shows a chronological approach. Louvre Abu Dhabi is like a time machine. You start roughly at the Neolithic Revolution, and in every room, in every showcase, actually, you have artworks from different civilizations talking to each other in echo, in resonance, and so on. So you of course, you can deep dive, you can understand, you can learn a lot, but you are taken by beauty and by the, let's say, the anthropological approach that we have all, what makes us human. That was, and I think this thread of beauty allows you to understand how we are connected. So this is what we do, and we're doing it with objects from the French Museum. We do it with a collection which has been developed in Abu Dhabi. We do it with what I call ambassador objects coming from key museum in the world. We have a big Olmec head on loan from Mexico. We have masterpieces from Philippines. So this museum is a world museum where you go. It's also because I think the overarching question is what is the real reality of the real, and so on. We are in a way walking in the footsteps of the imaginary museum, which is the matrice of the all this museum where you can invite artwork from all over the world. Malraux had one element, but he was using photography. He was using the reproduction to summon all the culture of the world. In our case, we are more on the Walter Benjamin side of things, which is we insist on the aura of the authentic, important, real objects. So actually, this is not a museum of replica. This is not. We have some image. We use technology to help you understand more. But we, thanks to the convening power of Abu Dhabi, thanks to the friendship with all the French museum, and many, we are able to gather real masterpieces of humanity from all period of time and all civilization, all religions. So this is really what you see important artifacts, and you can have this physical exchange as well. In a nutshell.
That's very interesting. I mean, we will get a bit deeper into this when we talk about your relationship also to the public and emotions. Now to, let's say, complete the introduction, I would like to ask Désiré about his project. But before, I would like to quote actually something that Tricia has said in the past days that I like very much, and that I think can show us a little bit the connection between these two worlds. That Désiré's project, you said, Tricia, correct me if I'm quoting it in a wrong way, has something that actually reminds of film in the way it is curated. Désiré is the founder of the Feuerle collection. He co-founded the institution with his wife, but the project is his for many decades, and he curated the whole project using light as a language, space as a language, his feelings, and he created a space in which a system of juxtapositions that would be invisible maybe otherwise are suddenly accessible. Désiré, can you tell us something about your project in Berlin, your Gesamtkunstwerk, your total work of art?
Yes. First of all, I think I want to say I'm a really passionate collector. I really love art, and I love to select art. It's not only that I like to select things which are meaningful to me. And so I was collecting many, many things. I started really as a child already with keys when I was 8 years old. And then later my interest shifted to silver, silver tin, coffee pots, drinking vessels from Bauhaus, Tiffany to Roman silver, I would say. So it's a very wide spectrum, but I always was interested in. And then very early as a child, I really found my love in Asia because it was adding something to my world, which I did know from Europe. Something what I really thought is important for me. So it was step by step. So I went my love really developed in many fields, and also contemporary. So for me, it was very important to collect these things, to use them one day for something. So like I sometimes tell people, like a cook, a chef has many ingredients in the kitchen. You don't always use them. Or paint as many colors. You don't use always the colors. But you should have them when you want to create something. So this is what I did. And then, of course, after many years, you think what you do. You give something to a museum or on loan, or even, you give many things, and maybe you are creative even. You can install the piece when you give many, and it's named after you, whatever. But I was not interested in that at all. I thought the beautiful thing is to create something very different, to create an experience. So I looked for the right building. It could have been many buildings, but by chance, I have to say really by chance, it was a bunker. It was a telecommunication bunker. And what I liked on it is the roughness. It's a very rough building, but it's a beautiful building in a way. And with the decadence, I really think it is very beautiful. I see really beauty in the crack of the ceilings, in the cracked floors, and in the massive way how this brutalist building is. And this attracted me to show very fragile, very fine, very sensitive pieces, because I love sensitive things. But the contrast is very attractive to me. So when I was thinking about when I saw it, I thought this is an incredible building. It's just important to turn the energy around, because a lot of people immediately say, oh, a bunker, why you do something in a bunker? I told them, look what I did. Don't think it's a bunker. Look first and you later tell me how you feel. So it was a big thing for me also to change this energy. This, something in bunker is direct, you think a bit negative, It's not the normal thing to put art inside, I would say. Especially not sensitive art, and especially not very meditative, sensual art. So it was from that moment on I was thinking. So I created something starting through, you have to go down. It's also psychologically, it is something when you go down, it's very good to start. And through a small room, I changed the entrance to a small room where you hear music by John Cage. And through this music already, in a dark room, in these few minutes, very minimal tones, you are, without realizing, changed and prepared really to go and see what you see. So then, when the art mediator is with the people, gives a sign, they go out of the room, and they have the first view. So that's super important. What you see first, the first view, is key to me. Yeah? And you can influence people with that. You can grab them. You have them in your mindset, and then everybody finds his own way. But this was for me very important. So, and then the people walk. And then another thing I tried was what was for me very important: water. Also to have a kind of we have a lake room, an artificial lake. It's 2,500 square meters, a flooded space. And when you then you do not really realize in the first moment, and you're tricked. You think it's very deep. It is deep, but it is not that deep what you think, and you can look down. It's the reflection. It's the mirrored ceiling. So it's something you are a bit confused. Your eyes do not really get it. It's really difficult to get, even for me, and I know it now. It's difficult, and that's the beauty also to float. This is another thing. I try to float a bit in life. This is my life philosophy. I like to be taken away from something. So an art piece also has to take me away. I mean, it does not take me away. It's not the thing. It can also shock me. That's also good. That I react to something. And so I tried really in this place to make something, no labels. That's also very important, because when you read, people always read. They read and they think, they know more when they read. At the end, it blocks them from feeling. It's much better you feel and then you look, instead of reading. And a lot of people, I see them reading, and seeing hundreds of works. And for example, in the Louvre, I went with friends there. Everybody's running. Then they want to see the Mona Lisa, but they miss maybe a beautiful painting by Leonardo da Vinci, just on the way, and everybody walks by and does not see that, So I really think it's very important to give also a hint to make. I did that with light. So I created also the light. It was a long process. I developed this together with a very good German light company. To have a very, I would say, it's maybe the best light system I have ever seen. Very complicated. For that, they didn't make it a second time, because very complicated. You need a person who has a good eye. You have one with a mediocre eye. Everything is mediocre. The important thing is, and I think for that reason we have also very young people. We have very young audience. 25 years is maybe average. The other day I was very impressed myself. And you know why? Because I think a lot of young people today, they want to, they like it. They like it that you not want to teach them something. That it's not a museum, you have to do this and this and this. And that's what they tell me. So you go inside, and you go like in a park. In a park also, it's nice. There are no labels on the trees. So I think it's another experience, and it's beautiful. And as I heard from many young people, they said it's a cool place here. They don't say, they do not even know maybe, but the third time they come, maybe they ask, what is this? What is this? What is that? And it's a beautiful process, I think, to get connected with art, and through that you maybe like something which a person would have been not thought before about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thank you. I mean, it's to the point. The experience is very important, and emotions. And actually, now going back to Tricia, what role does emotion play when you curate a program?
It's the starting point, I think. For me, it's not the end point. I think great cinema has a holy trinity of the heart, the head, and the soul. And the greatest filmmakers really do hold all of those things in tension. And I think some curators possibly start from the head, but I think heart, partly because I've always worked for public festivals, and it's about bringing people into cinema. In a way, I mean, while curating for a film festival is also curating, and it has a relationship to the work that Manuel and Désiré do, it's different also because we are responding to the new films that are made, and the films, we view the films as individual pieces and respond to them and invite them, not because they have a relationship always, sometimes, but not necessarily because they have a relationship to the other works that we've invited. And it's only later in the process, when you get 2/3 of the way through curation, that you start to really see the shapes and maybe also respond to the shapes even more. But I think we always start with emotion, because that is a lot of people go to the cinema, and I'm drawn to the cinema and always have been drawn to the cinema because it makes me understand the world that I live in, and it opens up. You asked as well about the invisible when we were talking about this session, and I think the really, really great filmmakers have a way of making what is invisible visible to us in a way that actually changes the way that I see the world after I've seen that film. And we're always thinking about this. But that's a very emotional, I think, response to cinema.
I mean, it's a very complex environment, I must say, just for all of us. I mean, we are trying to create something in 40 minutes that would require a much longer time, but it's a very complex environment, the one in which you work. There are so many layers in the audience, in the juries, in the film teams, and all viewpoints are important, and I have the feeling that to you they're all important, and this is really what you work around. Can you maybe explain what you're doing actually now, this putting everything together?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'll do it very briefly, but it is very complex because, as I mentioned before, we have an industry function, and I take that really seriously. I don't really care about the end of the industry that, you know, as Martin Scorsese said, the sort of theme park, and I might like to go as a spectator, but that's not where I work. But I care about the industry because it means artists being able to sustain themselves and to continue to make the work. So really thinking about that and how we serve, you know, the industry that makes cinema that matters. And we're thinking about public audiences, and we're also thinking over 200 films about individual points of connection with the program. So I know you might respond to a piece of cinema completely differently than I do, and I think that's fascinating. And we're always thinking about different ways in for people who come to cinema for different reasons, or to maybe come because they want to recognize something about their own lives. So there's a lot of tension that you have to hold to put together a good program, but I do think that is really, that's one of the things maybe that I'm most interested about, you know, that bringing that tension back into balance with the festival. It's a little bit vague, but I think, you know, anyone who works in curation knows that you sort of feel when that's working and when it's off as well too.
I mean, on the one hand, numbers and statistics help. On the other hand, feeling is very important. No? The way you would go because you feel that's right, with all your knowledge, obviously, and the sharpness of your thought, but then also with the feeling.
Absolutely. And I was just going to add that I think, like most sort of museums or gallery spaces, it's like I don't curate everything myself. I watch many, many, many films, but I also have a team of probably nearly 100 people who contribute, because we watch 8,000 films to get to the final festival, and I love that the prism that's created when we all bring different perspectives on the work. I think that's one of the real privileges of curating for a film festival as well too.
I mean, there's a very high degree of identification of your team with your institutions, as I can tell you, as somebody who lives in Berlin has observed this and knowing your team. I think that's very well done. And Manuel, I had a chance in the past years to be once in a panel with Juliette Sanger, I think. And then one of the discussions actually leads to our next question, and it's very linked also to what has been said before, and especially what Tricia said. It was about how to win new audiences. I mean, Désiré is welcoming people, especially the young people, as you also said, into his world, and they discover maybe also themselves, but secret things about you just by watching how you curated it. Juliette said back then it's actually a very complex work you're doing in the Louvre with the audiences, and how to secure future audiences as well. Now I turn it into the question, what role does feeling play for you when you organize this at the Louvre Abu Dhabi?
I think there are huge range of feelings with an S when you enter such a place. We receive 1.4 million visitors per year, so it's, we're on the top 50 plus of the world museum. So of course we're not trying to push one reading or one type of feelings that you have to experience. We we truly believe that there can be a multiplicity of readings and experience. What we would offer to everyone, I think, is driven by beauty, by this universal perception, understanding of beauty, even when it is the otherness. We can recognize, and all these objects have been selected. They survive through times because they have been loved, because they have been cared about. So these objects, from the oldest of time up to now, have this resonance. So I think this is part of the feeling that anyone will experience in our galleries. There is something also very strong in this globalized world, in a very cosmopolitan city like Abu Dhabi, which is due to the feeling about the identity. We are in a world where the identities are let's say, struggling or trying to reposition themselves in this overly connected world. And so in our galleries, you will see objects talking to almost all the identities of the world. As Turks, you would find many things from Ottoman, but also one of our star painting by Osman Hamdi Bey is something you will certainly find like a connivence between you on this piece. But you would see this Hamdi Bey talking to Manet and close to tribal arts that are coming from Eastern Ireland, and you would understand what we share, what was the echo, and so your identity would be in dialogue with the other identity of the world, and this would be the positive globalization, if I could frame it in this way. So we have that. We have a room where you have a Torah, a Bible, a Quran, and some sacred text, Sanskrit. So people enter this room. The light is very dimmed to protect the artworks, and also a little bit of scenography. But there is an emotion. There is something moving to see this in full respect, without saying one religion is better than the other, but that we share this aspiration to spirituality, and that it has driven some of the most important form of beauty as well. So I think this is where feelings are everywhere in our museum, and we use them to connect us. I was Stefan, you give me the desire to share anecdotes, because that could be my closure on this. We receive groups all the time, of course, and one day I'm receiving a group of, we say, people of determination. They were blind or having difficulty to see, and I'm trying to explain Louvre Abu Dhabi to someone who cannot see. Old Emirati, he wanted me to introduce a French lady to get married. But we were jokingly talking, and I was trying to explain the universal message. I was trying to explain this incredible architecture designed by Jean Nouvel, which is a huge dome of 180 meter diameter, filtering the light. So it's like a Medina city, like a museum which is made of little houses. The rooms are houses connected. We're on the sea on all sides. You have Moucharabieh. You're really in a contextualized architecture, something which is totally in its territory, totally modern, totally, but at the same time a place of pleasure. And I was trying to explain the rain of light. So trying to imagine how to explain the sun, which is going through 8 layers of metal to get this physical feeling. So I was talking. He was joking, and at one point, the sun touched his skin, and he moved, and then he understood. I was almost crying, literally.
Wow.
Because I was trying to explain on the sensorial approach that is in all museum directors' minds was happening with someone who couldn't see. And he was understanding how the full structure of the Louvre Abu Dhabi was working to welcome you and to treat you, to prepare you for this emotion of beauty. So,
that's beautiful. Thank you very much. I mean, we are all actually in an environment that is very young. Actually, if you think museums are coming from the 19th century in this form of as a house open to a public and not only to private collectors, cinema. I mean, it's very young. Désiré, actually, your project, I would say, is the youngest in some ways, because you open this gate between cultures, and you give this chance to pass through this gate, through times and cultures and geographic regions. And actually, you told me something when you visited, after you visited the Louvre, that you liked a lot seeing Leonardo da Vinci in the Louvre Abu Dhabi. Why? I just have to add, we don't have any time. I don't know if these last minutes are for the questions. So I'm very sorry that we cannot put all these incredible things so quickly together. Maybe you can give a quick answer, but thank you so much for this.
Yes. When I was in the Louvre Abu Dhabi seeing Leonardo da Vinci, I really think it is something, it feels so different to see a painting taken out of the context. It is so attractive, and it's exactly, now is this big discussion in the world, can be a Beckmann painting, leave Germany, whatever, or it has to be all shown the country. I completely disagree, Art is for everybody. It's not really, it should be here for these people because it is born here. It's universal art. Second, then the artists would be alive still. Many of them, they would love it to bring something to a completely different country with a complete different background. And I think that's very attractive. This is the future also, go over borders. This is what really the world should be, not narrowing. For that reason, Louvre Abu Dhabi, I really think it's very cool to see. When I saw it there, it's such a different feeling than you would see it in Italy, maybe.
I mean, one of the core things was actually to connect also your experience as an expert and scholar and author and concentrating on film, Tricia, with the museum, asking you if you had in your life a strong experience in a museum. And actually, my next question would have been to Manuel, what role plays film in your museum? And then I would have asked Désiré, what is film for you? Because you dedicate so much to film lately in your interdisciplinary project. Do you think we will make it to give a short answer to this question, like really super quick? Because I see that, and actually I would love to have questions from the public. I think this is a discussion which should go on forever, for like hours. I don't know, I know it's not possible, but yeah, maybe can you try it?
Godard wanted to run, the run through the Louvre. We're doing the opposite. First, we want to take the time, and we show cinema in the evolution of the history of representation and history of art. So you have acceleration, print, coins, multiplication of image, photography is definitely a rupture, and cinema is another of this rupture, which is everything is changing. The people at the time don't see, but they understand something is happening. And so all the questions that we have about AI, I think is the same. The next room that we need to build for Louvre Abu Dhabi will be, what is the impact of this? So this is how we put cinema as a multiplication of image on access to image.
Great answer.
And I will speak true to form as somebody who loves cinema, and I think an exhibition that really made a huge impact on me was Oliver Ellison's Turbine Hall at the Tate, the Weather Project, because it was incredibly cinematic. It was a collective experience that I was having with everyone in the room, children rolling around on the ground, seeing themselves in the light, and really magical, really spiritual experience that made me feel like I do when I see those moments where a filmmaker opens up the curtains to show you something that you haven't seen before.
So great to see through your eyes.
Yes, I mean, film, for me also, film is very important. For that, we're adding it more and more. I try to add more in the museum to look at it also more as an art piece, because it's not considered art, but it can be an art piece. And many beautiful movies are art pieces. So I really think it's very important. And, and also the language, when an art piece, you look at it, and you can think whatever you want. About the film, I would say the person who makes this film, he has a very clear vision. You can go into it, but it's very interesting also. I like that very much, this as a different thing.
Great. I mean, it's Q&A time. We wanted to actually ask to all of you what is really real, but I think we will leave it like this, no answer.
These
And
people.
now we will ask the public if they have questions for these champions.
Hi, this question is for Désiré. I visited the Feuerle collection twice, and it really requires you to be present because you cannot take photos or videos, so it really just lives in your memory. And in an age where a lot of marketing is through Instagram, how are you attracting young people when you're not allowed to take photos in the collection?
It's word to mouth, and I think that's beautiful. You know, especially in our time, I think it's beautiful that certain things are not exploited from maybe bad photography or bad video, because many things are bad and they transport the thing in the wrong way. It's much more beautiful. You hear about and you experience yourself. I think it's beautiful to offer this also today, this way.
We also call it a smartphone detox as an experience.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I also have a question for Désiré. I visited the museum and I absolutely fell in love with everything you're doing and seeing your passion and how your passion translates into every inch of the space. But I realize not everyone around the world can visit Berlin, can have access to such deep emotional connection and a gathering of intelligence. Have you ever considered being in conversations with other partners where you can create something like this in other parts of the world?
I would love to, I tell you. I mean, for me, the projects in Berlin, even we do interesting things, you know, in a smaller space, we do really different projects. I would love to have a new project. In fact, I have one, but it's not big enough. I would love, because the creation is my thing, to create something what fits in a country, which is something that puts also maybe a country on the map. You know, I really think there are not many places in the world at all, and many things could be improved, and I would love to do that. Yeah.
Any further question?
Can I do the devil advocate? I love that people are taking pictures in my museum. On the contrary, they take a bit, they interact. I understand it's a process to be a cleansing of, and you're absolutely right to propose this as an experience ultime of doing it, being there and like a performing art when you need to commune. I love that people are taking bits of ours. There are places in the museum that we didn't explore that much, and we discovered that we became extremely important for the Chinese visitor because there was one angle which was used in the... So I have people who came to Louvre Abu Dhabi because they got a glimpse of what it was through this appropriation, which is still a connection and a desire to share. So I love what you said on the Instagram, which is maybe this bottle that we throw. So if it is the only way that you look, I think it's a mistake. If it is an attempt to save something of your interaction, like a personal note and so on, I think it can have a value.
I want to say something.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but for example, in our space, or when you go in a church or something, it disturbs me when people just make photos. It disturbs the others. It's not about it brings an atmosphere inside which is not a good one. It's disturbing feelings.
I mean, joining this project for like on a daily basis, I would just like to add something because it sounds like so categoric and so strict. It's actually part of the experience, and Désiré has conceived it like this. But we have some exceptions, meaning that this, what you're describing, is also for us very important. We have, for a small museum, a quite strong Instagram community. And for instance, what Désiré said, there's a program Désiré curates with performances,
Yeah,
concerts, and temporary exhibitions, and those environments, we use the story on Instagram, not, let's say, but we actually give the chance to people who have a picture of that event, even to be present on our platform. So we also appropriate what they did, and we like it as well. But it's regulated somehow, because in Désiré's design, it wouldn't make sense. People, like.
I was teasing for the pleasure of being.
Yeah, no, I love
no,
this.
But I think that our institutions, from the film to Désiré's project to Louvre Abu Dhabi, are places where you can learn how to decipher the image, which I think is what we need when we are all carrying one or two devices which are bombarding us with images. And so there are a few places, there are a few protocols where you can come back to the source of the image. You can understand how they're made, how they're propagated, how they are sources of inspiration. And these places, some are religious, some are, but the museums is one of the
and the cinema space. I feel really passionate. I mean, listen, I love that you can see any film that you want at the touch of a button now, but there's something completely different about seeing a film in a space with an audience, and it's a moment for contemplation. You can't pause it. You're immersed. You can't get out of the experience, and you're together with other people, and that is the thing that's really beautiful about cinema. And I'm an optimist, so I join Stefan on this. I'm an optimist, and I think young people are rediscovering how vital it is to have these shared collective cultural and artistic experiences together. But it's so important to have that space for contemplation, I think.
Wonderfully said. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.